What if I told you that a single act of courage in a small-town diner one rainy night could change the lives of everyone inside forever? That kindness and bravery could come from the most unexpected people, wearing leather jackets and riding roaring motorcycles. This isn't just about a waitress and a group of thugs. It's about dignity, justice, and the reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Stay with me until the end, because the way this story unfolds will leave you with something unforgettable. The rain fell hard that evening, drumming against the diner's glass windows like impatient fingers. Inside, the glow of neon signs reflected off chrome stools and a coffee pot that had been refilled more times than anyone could count. Behind the counter stood Emma, a young waitress barely in her 20s. She wasn't just serving burgers and coffee. She was carrying the weight of bills, long nights, and dreams she wasn't sure she'd ever reach. Emma smiled through exhaustion. She always did. She believed kindness mattered even when life wasn't kind to her, but kindness isn't always returned. Just after 8 o'clock, the bell over the door jingled, and in came 3 men, loud, rough-looking, the kind of trouble you sense before they even sit down. They reeked of arrogance and cheap alcohol. Emma greeted them with her usual politeness, offering menus and pouring water, but instead of gratitude, she was met with sneers. "Hey, sweetheart, how about you smile for me instead of for the coffee pot?" one of them said, his voice dripping with mockery. The other 2 laughed. Emma forced a polite smile, though her stomach churned. She had dealt with rude customers before, but this felt different. The men leaned too close, their words cutting deeper with every joke at her expense. They called her names. They made comments that weren't just disrespectful, they were demeaning. The other diners, a few older couples and a truck driver in the corner, lowered their eyes. They wanted no part of it. That's the thing about bullies, they thrive when no one stands up. And Emma, caught between her job and her dignity, felt her throat tighten with fear. When one of the men reached out and tugged lightly on her apron string, Emma flinched and stepped back. Her hands shook as she tried to steady the coffee pot. "Please, just sit down. I'll bring your order," she whispered. They laughed again, louder this time, as though her discomfort was entertainment. Emma's chest ached with the helplessness of it all. This was her workplace, her only income, and yet here she was, cornered. And still, nobody moved to stop them. The bell over the door jingled again, and this time the sound cut through the tension like a knife. The men turned their heads, annoyed at the interruption. Emma looked up too and froze. Through the doorway stepped a group of bikers, leather jackets, heavy boots, helmets tucked under their arms. The kind of sight that would make most people tense up, expecting trouble. The leader, a tall man with a weathered face and piercing eyes, scanned the room slowly. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. They filled the diner like a storm rolling in, the kind you can feel in your bones. For the first time that night, the thugs grew quiet. Emma's heart pounded. She didn't know if this was salvation or just more danger. The bikers took their seats at the counter, exchanging nods with one another but saying little. The leader caught Emma's eye for a brief moment. His gaze wasn't threatening, it was steady, almost protective. Still, Emma hesitated, unsure whether to approach. One of the thugs sneered, trying to regain control of the room. Well, looks like the circus is in town." His voice carried, sharp with false bravado. His friends chuckled nervously, but the sound lacked the bite it had before. The leader of the bikers set his helmet on the counter with a heavy thud. Slowly, he turned on his stool, facing the 3 men who had been tormenting Emma. His voice, when it came, was low and calm, the kind of calm that carries more weight than shouting ever could. "You boys giving the lady a hard time." The diner went silent. Even the rain seemed to pause outside. The thug who had tugged at Emma's apron straightened his shoulders, but the confidence in his eyes faltered. "We're just having some fun. No harm done." The biker stood, towering over them. "Does she look like she's having fun?" he asked, pointing toward Emma, whose trembling hands betrayed her answer. The men shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One tried to laugh it off, muttering something about a misunderstanding. But the bikers had already risen from their stools, one by one, until the thugs were outnumbered and outmatched. The leader took a step closer, his presence overwhelming. "Here, what's going to happen," he said firmly. "You're going to apologize to her, then you're going to leave, and if I ever hear about you treating a woman like that again, we'll find you. Understood?" The thugs exchanged glances, their bravado crumbling. The bravest of them mumbled a half-hearted apology in Emma's direction, then scrambled to gather their things. Within moments, the bell jingled again as they fled into the rainy night, their laughter replaced by the sound of retreat. Emma stood frozen, relief flooding her but mixing with disbelief. She whispered, "Thank you," though her voice cracked under the weight of all she'd held in. The biker leader softened then, his stern demeanor fading. "You don't deserve that," he said gently. "Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." He placed a few bills on the counter, more than enough to cover the coffee, and gave her a reassuring nod. The rest of the bikers followed his lead, their presence lingering like a shield even as they prepared to leave. Before he walked out the door, the leader turned back one last time. His words weren't loud, but they carried through the diner with a strength Emma would never forget. "Sometimes the world's ugly, kid, but there are still people out there who will stand up when it counts. Don't lose faith." And with that, the bikers were gone, swallowed by the night and the sound of engines roaring to life. Emma stood behind the counter, tears brimming in her eyes, but for the first time in a long while, they weren't tears of fear or frustration. They were tears of hope. The other diners slowly looked up, some ashamed they hadn't acted, others inspired by what they'd witnessed. That night, Emma carried something home with her far more valuable than tips. She carried proof that courage could arrive in leather jackets, and that even in the darkest moments, light can walk through the door when you least expect it. Never underestimate the power of standing up for someone in need. You may not ride a motorcycle or wear a leather jacket, but in someone else's story, you could be the hero who walks in at just the right time.